Alright, what's going on everyone? It's Apollo Athletics, and I just woke up today, July 16th, about 3 months away from my bodybuilding competition on October 12th, the WNBF Natural Bodybuilding Competition on November 12th. Gonna be competing, gonna be trying to win. Last time I did this, I got 4th place. I'm gonna try and bump it up to 1st place this time around. I did it in 2022, so 2025, hopefully in those 3 years, I'll be able to make enough progress. I was injured for quite a bit at that time, but I think that my physique now is better than it was before, particularly some of my weak spots like my legs, and primarily my legs, I guess, are my weak spot. And I think my arms have gotten quite a bit bigger too. Just my entire body's gotten bigger, and I hope that will help propel me to that next level and get 1st place and receive my pro card. If I win that pro card, actually, I'll be able to compete against Will Tennyson the next day, because I think that the pro show for that year is the day after that in Calgary. I'm in Calgary with a bodybuilding competitions in Calgary. I think if Will Tennyson, because Will Tennyson won in Vancouver, or I believe he was in BC or Victoria or something like that, or Kelowna was it? I forget. He won the British Columbia circuit, and if I won the Alberta circuit, then I'll be able to face off against him, which would be pretty cool. It'd be pretty cool to see myself and how I'd compete against him if he were to compete in the pro bodybuilding competition, and not if I were to win. So it's a lot of assumptions, but I think it's pretty cool to think about. So for today, last time I did a bunch of training stuff. I explained my training philosophy. I'll do that again today, but I think that I'm going to go a bit more over my nutrition, as nutrition is becoming more important for me now as I get closer to the competition. Tracking my calories and protein is pretty important nowadays to make sure that I'm hitting my macros, especially getting enough protein. Protein is probably the name of the game right now. Calories aren't like the biggest deal. Like I can probably still get around with just like sort of estimating calories, although I'll probably still try and go over my calorie intake as best as I can. But calorie intake probably isn't going to be super important right now. Sorry, being super stingy about my calorie intake probably isn't super important right now. What's mainly important is getting my protein in. I'll tell you how I get my protein in. I'll show you how I get my breakfasts, my snacks. In terms of spiritual study, I am going through Father Mike Schmidt's Bible in a Year. I started to catch up to it around March, and now I'm caught up to it, and I'm watching it every single day. They're on the book of Tobit, and that's pretty interesting because coming from a Protestant background, I never actually read the Deuterocanonical books, and it's pretty interesting so far. But in terms of my own personal Bible study, I'm going through Job. I'm on chapter 4 or 5, I believe. I have a bookmark somewhere. I'm on chapter 4 or 5. I like to do my own personal Bible study, going over one narrative or theological, like poetic book. Right now I'm in Job, which is kind of an interesting marriage between the two because it's both poetical and it's both like a narrative book. So what I actually do to start off my day usually is I try and get some kind of snack, some kind of food in my body. And what I like to do is I like to get the My Protein bar. It's 240 calories and 20 grams of protein, so pretty high in protein. Not as high as it could be, I suppose. Like if you get just by whey protein, it'll be more protein dense, so to speak. But this is a good way to start your day, a good day to get some good protein in. So I start my day off eating a protein bar, and then we move on. Before we get on, I actually realized that I forgot to take my weight and do a physique check this morning. So I'm going to be checking my weight right now and showing my physique momentarily. All right, this is my physique update. I am about 183, 184 pounds, as you can see in this screenshot here, the picture I just took. And this is me in my bathroom, not very great lighting or anything like that. Very candid lighting, might even be a bit bad lighting actually. But I think it'll give you an authentic look at what I look like first thing in the morning. Okay, let me take off my pants as well. And yeah, I'm gonna do some posing here. Turn my legs on first. And then most muscular is my best pose, so I always try and start with it. Boom. And then maybe side chest after. Side tricep. You can see a little bit of a striation in my upper chest there. I don't know how I got that, but I think it's good. It gives me a bit more definition, especially as I lean down a lot. And then what else? Front lat spread. Hopefully my phone isn't obscuring anything. I think my phone shouldn't be in the way. Yeah, you can see my full physique, I think. And then, what else? Thigh. I'll do some back poses even though I can't see it myself. Hopefully I'm posing properly. And this. I might have missed a pose or two, but that should be the gist of it. That's what I look like in the morning. No food in me, no exercise, no pump. I haven't even eaten that protein bar that I was telling you about. I'm gonna talk a bit more about that actually later on, but I haven't even eaten that yet. So, let me do hands on hips, most muscular. That one's hard to do. But I haven't eaten the protein bar. Talk to you more about that later, but I haven't eaten anything. So I look like candidly, even somewhat bad lighting. All right, we are down here in the kitchen. What I like to make just about every morning is what I call protein pancakes. So it's not what I call protein pancakes, it's just called protein pancakes. I get it from myprotein.com. I'm not sponsored, by the way. I wish I was, but I'm not sponsored. Unflavored protein. You can get buttermilk or unflavored. Buttermilk has a bit worse calorie to protein ratio. Unflavored is a bit better. So 180 calories for 22 grams of protein. And if you look at the back here, probably can't see it through the camera too well, but this is for 2 scoops. So 2 scoops of this is 180 calories. So I have 2 scoops of this, and then I add an extra bit of protein powder here. This is maple syrup donut, which works really well with the protein that I use, with the pancakes that I use. It actually adds more protein and makes it taste better, so it's really just a double win. There's about 150 calories per scoop in this, so 150 plus 180, that's like 330 or something like that. So my breakfast is about 330 calories, and this is 25 plus 22, so that's about 47 grams of protein for about 300 calories. Pretty good. And for a little bit extra flavor, I do end up adding an egg. So that adds about 6 grams actually, 6 grams of protein actually, so it's about 55 grams of protein. My protein pancakes are about $40 on their website, but there's a bunch of deals all the time that you can look out for. Just the other day, I bought some more for, I think it was 45% off for a flash deal. And if you go on the website, you get an extra 5% off. So I got this at 50% off. So I got it at like $22. Like this whole pack, $25. And it lasts me quite a bit of time. So definitely this is what I try to do to save money and to eat healthily and get a lot of protein in on a relatively cheap diet for something I really like doing, which is I really like eating pancakes. So yeah, you can get some 0-calorie maple syrup. I'm not doing that right now. I'm probably gonna do it once I get closer to my prep. Right now this is just a regular maple syrup I found from the grocery store. It's not very healthy for you. For 60 milligrams it's 200 calories and like 50 grams of carbs. So not exactly very good for you, but you can definitely get 0-calorie options for maple syrup. It'll cost you a bit more, but it'll definitely save you weight and save you calories and all that stuff. So I'm probably gonna end up eating like, I don't know, like 500 calories for this breakfast, whereas I could have ended up actually eating like 300 calories like I calculated before. And again, this actually tastes absolutely delicious. 300 calories, 330 or so calories for something that tastes super good. You absolutely cannot go wrong with it. My protein in general is really good, has been treating me really good. There's so many deals all the time. You can almost never get something for full price if you know what you're doing. If you just sign up for the email list, you can never get anything at full price. The other protein powder that I use for my, when I drink protein powder, is from MyProtein as well. Got 50% off. The protein bar that I ate this morning that I was telling you guys about, I got a pack of 12 for about $25. So each bar was like a little bit over like a dollar and a half or so, something like that. And this is all in Canadian money, by the way. So most of you guys are an American or British. It's gonna be even less for you, so you can calculate that in your own time with your own calculators. But for me, this is how the price broke down, and it has worked really well for me, and it's been a relatively cheap way for me to get all the foods that I like. There's probably cheaper ways to get it. You can buy a bunch of chicken in bulk, probably end up saving a bit of money, but I just personally like doing this, and that's what has been working for me, and I can afford it. So, and this pancake is also really easy to make. All you do is just put it all in a mixer. You get the thing to mix it all together. I forget what it's called. and then you just put some water in, and then put it on the stove, put it on the pan, and then you just cook it, and then after like 10 minutes or so, it's done, and you can just enjoy a really great and protein-rich meal. So just to give you more context into how genuinely easy this is, I already added everything, right? I added the 2 scoops of this, the scoop of this. You can't really see because this color looks indistinguishable, but I did add the 3 scoops that were necessary. And oh yeah, why do I choose this maple syrup donut from this Revolution brand instead of My Protein? Well, because My Protein doesn't have a maple syrup donut flavor yet. Anyways, if it did, I would definitely get it from there, but they don't have that yet, so I just get it from another source. Anyways, yeah, literally all that is already right there. So I'm gonna start adding water, then mixing it together, and then this pan is already preheating. I just put in some olive oil in there to make it mix better and help me flip the pancakes better. And then that's literally it. I just put it all together, throw it in there, flip it over when one side is cooked, and that's genuinely the whole thing. And there she is. There's the pancakes. Honestly, I thought it came out pretty good. It didn't cook fully, as you can see some parts there. That part didn't really cook. But, oh well, whatever. I'm making this for myself. I'm not making it for anyone else. And I think it's fine. A couple hours later, I take 2 scoops of creatine and 1 scoop of whey isolate. Mix it together in this shaker that I have here that I got from The Realm Fitness. Does it say here? Yeah, it says here, The Realm Fitness. Amazing gym. It's a place I've gone to record a bunch of my videos that you guys have seen before. It is just a wonderful place. Probably the best gym in Canada. If you ever get to come to Canada and you're into the gym and you're around the area, you should definitely try and go there. It's a great place. But yeah, mix those 2 up. Why don't I take 2 scoops of creatine instead of 1? Some people require more creatine for it to properly saturate the muscle, and also when you take more creatine, it saturates your brain as well. You get some brain gains from it. So I try and take 2 scoops, and my scoops are pretty big. They're like overflowing the thing. So it's actually closer to 3 scoops. I take probably about like 12, 13 grams of creatine because it helps saturate your entire body better, not just your muscles. And some people are less sensitive to creatine. So if I take a bit more creatine, then it helps with that. Yeah, that's why I take multiple scoops of creatine, and I take this Impact Whey Protein Isolate. I probably wouldn't recommend getting isolate. It's a bit expensive, on the expensive side. I'm going to probably now go on with whey concentrate, just because there is, it's far cheaper. It's a bit less protein dense, but it's just far cheaper. So that's the sort of debate that I'd go with. The side I've taken on the whey isolate versus concentrate. If you have the money for it and money just isn't a problem for you at all, then definitely get whey isolate. But whey concentrate is just as good. It's almost as good, and it costs like 30% less. So you get like an extra 5% worse, but it costs 30% less. So I'd take that deal personally. All right, so I just made it to the gym. I'm going to be at my friend's gym here. He's not going to be in the video because he has a lot of stuff to do, so basically I could borrow the gym. It's a really good gym. It's the basement gym that you've probably seen in some of my videos, wherein I am in a really nice gym in a basement. And the guy's name is Tommy, or Midas MVMT, Midas Movement. I think he's just called the Movement now. Really nice guy. He lives close to me, and we've been friends for a while, so he lets me go to his gym and record some stuff. But we're going to be getting some really good footage. I think I brought my own camera. Hopefully the footage will be good, and I'll be explaining what I'm doing, why I'm doing this stuff. And before I get into there, though, there is a story I wanted to tell that I haven't really been able to tell elsewhere, but I think it's a good time to tell now. A couple weeks ago, went to the gym, met someone. He was a really nice guy. He had a Christian attire on, so I figured that he was a Christian. So I asked him, like, hey, are you a Christian? And he said, yeah. And then we started getting into some conversations. And then he said that I told him about my book. They say he's interested in buying it. So then the next day I came to the gym. We started texting. I came to the gym, got it to him. He bought it. And it was good. But as I was leaving, there was one of my other gym friends, acquaintances person, who is, I'm not going to say his name, I'm not going to dox him. He's pretty popular. But as soon as I told him what I was doing, I was like, hey, I wrote a book called Muscular Christianity. I was giving it to someone that he's like, oh, muscular Christianity. That's like, people are making Christianity in the gym together. That's like so dumb. And Christianity has been a force for all this bad stuff. And I don't know. I don't know if he was like an anti-Christian or something like that, or maybe he just heard some weird things here and there. But he seems to be very disapproving of my book. And he sort of started to look at me a bit differently, I could tell. And this was a couple months ago. I haven't seen him since then. So, I mean, I've seen him at the gym, I guess, but I haven't talked to him since then. And I don't know if he wants to talk to me. But we've just been sort of looking at each other weirdly since then. So, I don't know. I guess just an interesting story. Maybe it doesn't mean that much because I'm not naming names. I probably should name names to avoid trauma, but he's pretty popular. If I mention his name, you might actually know him. Some people might actually know him. He has a couple 100,000 followers on Instagram. It's worth just remembering what you're doing and why you're doing it, and knowing that you're doing it for God, not doing it for the approval of man. And this was a reminder of that, I suppose, because, you get a large following. Could I have collaborated with him at some point and maybe mooshed off some of his followers? I guess probably, possibly, but if that comes at the behest of my faith, of my convictions, if I have to soften up my convictions, if I have to give up my convictions, then no, it's not worth it. And I guess this is not like, not that was guaranteed or anything like that. It's not like we're close friends or anything, but it's a reminder to really make sure you understand why you're doing things and be willing to sacrifice things for your convictions. Even though this is like a minor example of that, it's not really, did I really give up a lot with that? I don't know, but it's worth remembering. So I think that's just a good reminder for all of you muscular Christians who are, your faith and your fitness are very important to you. This is some obstacles they might run into. So I thought I'd just share that for you guys. All right, here we are in this wonderful gym. Honestly, it's such a great background, such a great area to train. I love training here. He's got his whole home gym here. He has a whole rack of dumbbells, a whole Smith machine, and everything. It's such a great place to train. This is totally goals for me. I want to get a home gym like this myself so I don't have to go to different commercial gyms and get my work done. This is how it is. This is the dream. And this is what I'm going to be training. This is what I'm going to be explaining what I'm going to be doing for the day. I got golfer's elbow the other day, or the other week or so at this point, that probably a month ago actually, maybe at this point. But anyways, that golfer's elbow has been a really big problem to me. So I can't do a lot of pulling movements. So with my biceps and my back, I can't do too much. But that should be fine because my back and my biceps are arguably my best muscle groups anyway. So it doesn't hurt taking a little break from that. So it's going to be more of a push workout. We're going to be doing the incline bench press, and then we're going to be going into the overhead tricep extension. And then after that, we're going to be doing lateral raises, and then we're going to be doing some shrugs. I'm going to be explaining why I'm doing everything I'm doing as I go on. It will make a lot of sense. You guys are going to enjoy this. You guys are going to be able to gain a lot from this, a lot of wisdom, a lot of knowledge. Let's get into it. So first exercise here is the incline bench press. I don't like having my bench press more than about 15 to 30 degrees up. I think once it gets above that, then it works a bit more of your shoulders as opposed to your upper chest. I chose the Smith machine because it's a bit more stable, and I just prefer doing the incline bench on the Smith machine as opposed to doing it free weight. It's not a big deal, but if I had to choose one or the other, I'd choose the Smith machine. I think that having this moderate, sort of slight incline here helps you gain holistic chest involvement. With the regular bench press, it'll work more for mid-chest, but with the incline bench press, it'll work more for your upper chest and your mid-chest, because that's just how the angles of your muscle fibers work and how they protrude. So I think that generally, if I had to choose one exercise or the other, the flat bench press or the incline bench press, I would choose the incline bench press for the holistic chest involvement, because your upper chest is usually lacking compared to your mid-chest and your lower chest, especially your lower chest. But with this, you'll be working on your upper chest and your mid-chest a lot. And it's just a better overall chest builder for most people, considering where people's deficiencies lie in their chest involvement and their chest growth. The next exercise here is the overhead tricep extension. This is my favorite tricep exercise. This is what I infamously, people got really mad at me for saying this. Infamously, this is the only tricep exercise I ever actually recommend. It is so good. It gets you a really deep stretch in the back of your tricep. It's been shown in studies to be more efficacious than the classic tricep pushdown. I see no reason not to just completely spam this exercise. From what I've seen, it's the best tricep exercise builder, tricep muscle builder. It's gotten my triceps to look really beefy. As you can see here, the long head of my tricep, which is the part that's really beefy, that gives you all the beef in your tricep, is really well developed for me. One of my stronger points now. It's one of my things I want to get up for the next competition because I believe the triceps are probably one of the most important muscle groups. Triceps, back, shoulders, legs, those are like the top 4 most important muscle groups. So the long head of your tricep gives you that the bulk of the beef within your triceps. I think it's really important that you get the long head as big as possible. Not just that, but even on stuff like the front double bicep, the sweep that you see down here, that's the long head of your tricep. So you want to make sure that the long head of your tricep is as beefy, as great as possible. The short head is good as well, but the short head is worked out during like even the bench press and a bunch of other chest exercises. So you want to really, when you do isolate your triceps, you want to be biasing the long head, which is why I really like the overhead tricep extension because it seems to be the best exercise at working at the long head of your tricep. For the next exercise, just a classic cable lateral raise. I prefer the cable over the dumbbell just because it's a more consistent tension curve. It gets you tension throughout the entire range of movement as opposed to having no tension at the bottom. Honestly, it doesn't really matter though. I don't think it's that big of a deal if you have to use dumbbells, if you have to use, anything else, or the cables. It doesn't really matter. I think that they're both useful. They're probably like almost equally useful. I just prefer using the cables. I think it might have like a 1 or 2% extra bonus over the dumbbells. Honestly, you can go well with either one of them. The shoulders, this is going to be the most important muscle group, the most important exercise for your shoulders. It'll work on the medial delt of your shoulder, which will give you that really big width and make you have that really big like bulging shoulder that people always tell me I have in my videos that just kind of bulges through. That's the medial delt, the mid shoulder. You want to really make sure that is the muscle group that you're working on the most. The rear delts and the anterior delts, they aren't really as important as the mid delts for that width that you want to have to make yourself look really big. So yeah, if there's any shoulder exercise you should be abusing and using the most, it's not the overhead press, it's not the, rear delt fly or anything like that. It is the cable or dumbbell lateral raise. And you don't need to go anything above like 90 degrees. If you go above here or so, it'll start working a bit more on your traps. If that's what you want, then that's fine. But you don't need to go any more than 90 degrees. Just going like this is fine. And yeah, I think that your shoulders can take a lot of beating. So if you want to incorporate this exercise on days that aren't your push day or days that aren't your upper day. You just want to do like these exercises after your leg day or something like that. You could do them up to 5 times a week probably. You'll probably still be fine. Because your shoulders, from my experience, can handle a lot of beating. They can handle a lot of work being applied to them. And they're such an important muscle group. I think that they're an important muscle group. They're relatively light to train. So it's not like the legs where you're going to like die every time you do the exercise. And they are really important for your physique. So I think that it's worth considering doing a bunch of shoulder exercises, a bunch of lateral raises, even on days that you don't normally do it, and to a frequency that feels a bit unorthodox to you. And for the last exercise, we're going to be doing shrugs, dumbbell shrugs. I prefer doing dumbbell shrugs because it's a little bit less strain on your forearms, a little bit less strain on your, so you don't have to use a strap if you don't want to use a strap. A little less strain on your lower back as opposed to using a barbell, wherein I guess you can do a bit more weight, but I think that a lot of the weight is offloaded to your back because of the way the exercise has to be performed. With dumbbells, you can put them at your side there and you can just shrug like that. Don't need straps unless you go really heavy, and you don't need to worry about your lower back taking over because you're sitting down, right? When you're sitting down, your lower back, none of your lower back is working. So I think that the best way to isolate your traps is to do a seated dumbbell shrug. And that's what I like to do for my traps. My traps aren't the best or anything like that. I think they can get a lot better. Try to work on them now. But I think that this is the best traps exercise you can probably do to isolate them and get the most out of it. I think that your traps are really important for the, probably more so important for make yourself look big in a shirt, not really the most important for a bodybuilding competition. And even though I am participating in a bodybuilding competition, I think that having big traps is still good. And at the very least, I can't really work on any other muscle groups right now because, again, I can't do pulling exercises because of my golfer's elbow. So I think that working on these muscle groups that I otherwise wouldn't really be working on too much is a good idea. And the traps just happen to fit that mold. And that's what I think that you should be doing, especially if you want to, these exercise, the traps are what you should be doing, especially if you want to look big in a t-shirt, want to look big to the general public. For a bodybuilding competition, not as important, but for a general public, I think it's important. So that's why I am committing myself to getting big traps right now. All right, now the day is over. I did all my recording. I'm going to go over some of my Bible readings that I did for today as I listened to Father Mike Schmitz in the podcast this morning, or I guess this evening, and I did my evening Bible study prayers. So I read Job 3. In Job 3, Job wishes death upon himself, which is pretty interesting, you know? Usually I think of questioning God, asking why he does things. I sort of associate that with like sinning, but it says that Job didn't sin, especially in his words, he didn't sin. I guess same thing happens with Jesus, where he says, my God, why have you forsaken me? Obviously Jesus wasn't sinning, but he's sort of agonizing with God, he's wrestling with God, and that is something that I don't really, I don't know, I guess I don't feel comfortable doing that. Maybe it's something I should feel more comfortable doing. It's just something that it feels like you're doubting God, but maybe they're not doubting God. Maybe they're just wrestling with him and they're just letting out their emotions, and God wants you to let out your emotions and wrestle with him, like Jacob does. Although Jacob does literally, and this is a bit more metaphorical. But maybe that's something we should be considering more, you know. In tough trials, God doesn't provide answers, but he provides comfort. You know, muscular Christianity, one of the piercing insights in there that I think, that no one really talks about, but I think is really important, is that, that I thought of in my book, is that God doesn't, the problem of evil is going to exist. Like, you know, evil happens, bad stuff happen, but I think that the best worldview is one that helps you deal with that problem of evil the best it can. Not necessarily that it intellectualizes it, that it really gives you a step-by-step plan process for how this happens and why it's happening, but a plan that allows you to a plan that allows you to weather that storm when it comes. I think that Christianity has a really strong bulwark for that, because suffering is seen as something that can help build your character. It's seen as God putting you through fire, that way you can become gold. And I think that's that sort of metaphor, that sort of mindset that Christianity likes to espouse and likes to really hone down, helps you weather through the problem of evil the best you can. Because at some point, right, a lot of the apologetics and theology stuff, it can become kind of like just like mental, I don't want to use this word, I'll think of a different word. At some point it just becomes like mental theorizing, but at some point you gotta get down to the brass taxes and be like, well, okay, so the fact this does exist, us thinking about why it exists doesn't change anything. So how can we weather this storm the best we can? I think that Christianity provides the best outlet for that. Similarly, actually, Tobit has a similar story. I guess I didn't read this part specifically, but the book of Tobit has Tobit and his wife Sarah. They go through all these random challenges. Like, Tobit gets blinded. He kind of questions why. He sort of wishes to die, similar to Job. And Sarah, which is his wife, she is like being demonically oppressed. And they sort of wonder what's going on. Like, why is God allowing this to happen? And I think that this reminds me to continue having faith even through those bad times, because I heard this metaphor a while ago. It's sort of similar to the Icarus story, the Icarus Greek mythological story, wherein Icarus flies too close to the sun, and as he's flying too close, his wings get burnt and he falls down. But in this one, it's a bird is flying close to the sun, and as the bird gets closer and closer, they start to get blinded. So similar to the Tobit story, I guess. They get blinded, but they want to keep going to the sun, so they keep going up. Even though they're blinded, they don't know how to. Similarly, pretend the sun is God and we are the bird. So as we get closer and closer to God, we have to rely more and more on our faith, because sometimes some things just don't make any sense. We go through all these troubles, we go through all these issues, and it doesn't make any sense why we're going through all that. But we just have to keep trusting, even though we're blinded and we can't see clearly what's going on. We have to keep trusting in God and keep pushing further and further to the sun until we hopefully get there in the final destination of heaven. And that's sort of how the Christian life is sometimes. Things don't make any sense. You just gotta have faith. You gotta have just this willingness to keep persevering, this indefatigable perseverance that pushes you through regardless of the circumstance. And even when things don't make any sense, you have this mindset of, I'm going to keep pushing through. I'm going to keep having faith in God, because he's all powerful and he's all good. And at some point it will all be worth it. Because of that eternal bliss we'll have in the next life in heaven when we're eternally with God. So that's what I've learned from Tobit and Job. I guess the stories were kind of connected there. It's pretty interesting. But that's what I got from those readings. And yeah, that'll be it for the podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed. Maybe I'll do more of these in the future if you guys are interested. All right, I'm probably gonna go to bed now, or I'm gonna send the footage over to my computer and go to bed now. All right, good night. See ya.